Welcome to Let's Write This Movie, where we write a screenplay
while sharing the process with the internet.
I am your screenwriter, René Garcia.
And I'm your collaborator, Brian Glass.
Now, let's write this movie. Here we are, Brian. It's Judgement Night.
Welcome to Let's Write This Movie, or maybe it should be called Let's Finish Movie Number 1.
I feel so tall today. Okay, there you go. I think that's a little better. It's like,
here's a question for you, Renee.
This doesn't seem right. Why do I seem so tall? Yes, Brian, what is the question?
You've always been tall in my eyes.
If only you were a woman. That was hot.
And local.
What you had a question, Brian?
Yeah, do you anticipate that this would be the last show of season 1?
Yes. Well, no. Okay, so I don't think we recapped it in the recap, but the plan was not just to enter the script and to enter Epitaph into this horror screenwriting competition, but to also do an animatic and have it voice recorded, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And that is still semi in the works, but I don't know that we can, or that I can have that on a steady cadence that would provide satisfying updates that we could record and talk about. Like, oh yeah, voice, Jimbo, who's doing the voice for whoever, he's doing a really good job, or whatever, right? Like, is that something interesting? Would people want to watch that? I don't know.
Probably not. We could just when we start the next script, we could just kind of mix in updates from one. I suppose.
There you go.
Okay, well then let me reframe the question for you. When would you like to start season 2?
That's a good question. Maybe next week, I guess. I mean, I guess we could do that. So, we kind of talked about an idea. Well, we talked in the recap, we talked about what we could do for season 2, but then we also had a conversation between then and today about another idea. Is that you want to get into that now, Brian, or is there something else we wanted to talk about?
Well, I think we should wrap up the open issue first and find out once and for all.
Well, I have a feeling, based on the language you're using, that this will be the end of season 1. So let's find out. So I did enter. I unfortunately don't have time to show it to everybody. But I did enter the script into a Stage32 New Blood screenwriting contest, and I wish on their site it would just tell you, like, give you a link to it. Okay, I guess I'm going to have to Google it.
I know you sent me a link. You can always go from there.
Yeah, I don't think I'm on that computer, though, and I may have sent it through my phone. Is this it? That's 6th annual. Yes, here we go.
All right.
Let's find it. Okay, quarterfinalists. We are looking for the E's. Well, I guess we're continuing. That was fast. Guess we're continuing the show. I love it when they write all the winning names, the author names in caps, but they can't figure out how to do the accent aigu, with a capital E. They always have to resort to a lowercase e.
This is why I refrained from writing to you about that today.
Well, writing about what? About looking at this?
About how weird your E looked in there.
Oh, so you already looked at this earlier today is what you're telling
me. Absolutely.
This guy.
Of course I did.
Well, I just came in from doing a dinner review, and that video will be up on a different channel. And I was just telling my dinner companion about what we were doing tonight, why I had to rush home.
Yeah.
And I said to him that, I want to make sure to capture my disappointment live. It's fresh. I don't want to look at it ahead of time. But no disappointment tonight, folks. Quarterfinalist.
Nope.
Looking at a quarterfinalist.
Again.
So wait a second.
Last time you got to final, right?
I was in the top 10.
Yeah.
So quarterfinalist is how many people?
84.
Do they tell us?
84.
Oh, you counted? Jeez.
Yeah. Well, I put it on a spreadsheet, and easy. Because there's one person who's in there twice with the same script, so
Oh,
they're 85 listed, but it's actually 84.
yeah,
Dog
Kelly
or
Parks.
something like that.
Kelly Parks and her dog, or
Yeah.
his dog.
Dude, I gotta tell you, there's one on here that's like, I saw the name. It's so silly.
Don't Let Us Kill You.
Swipe with an exclamation point.
Swipe. Oh, you know what that's about.
Yeah, that's a horror about Tinder.
Exactly. Man, I wish I did take the time.
That's gonna have a shelf life of like 5 minutes. That movie, if it ever gets made. Swipe. What was this about?
What?
People
No,
swipe?
come on, man. You can easily see that being on like a Hulu or a Netflix or Sci-Fi. The Swipe Killer. Are you next?
I just kill it random. It's what I do. That's what I do. Oh, looks like my next victim's gonna be. So dumb.
Well, look. Let me just say, these are my fellow contestants, fellow screenwriters. It's hard for me to judge them based on the name of their scripts, and who knows, that might be a wonderful story, Brian. But stay after we're done recording, and we can talk some more.
I'm not in this script writing contest, and I will say swipe sounds silly.
All right. Well, look. Here's the thing.
Good enough for 84, though.
Hey, this is horror, right? And some of these, they look kind of fun. Philadelphia, right? Who doesn't want to see that? I'd see that. Or Don't Let Us Kill You.
Well, congrats on the first stage, man.
Thanks, bro. Thanks.
That's good news.
Wow. So you and I, we had a relatively lengthy discussion about what one other professional screenwriter thought about essentially doing this. At least I assume this is what he was referring to.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't clear, but I just assume that the things that other aspiring screenwriters do to try to get recognition, break into the business, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I assume part of that, or maybe a big portion of that, is entering contests like this. And this screenwriter likened it to playing the lottery. I don't think I've made any. I don't think I've ever had any illusions about what I was doing. And I think even if I was, well, whatever. I mean, I think this is like all we can do is play the lottery. Like even if one of the things that this guy said is, to just make your own films. And while I can appreciate that, and that is something I would want to do as well, even just as a hobby for myself, because I like the concept of telling stories. I feel like that is not a and maybe he didn't mean it as a guarantee, but I don't think that necessarily increases your odds of getting picked up for anything professional or gets you closer to your dreams in the way that you had dreamt your dreams. And I've had some time to think about it, and I look at my own path. I didn't see a clear way for me to get into the Hollywood screenwriting business as a professional. And so, for those of you who don't know, I decided to become an entertainment journalist. That you can't just become an entertainment journalist and write for Variety. You can't just knock on their door and say, "I'm here, hire me. I like movies," right? Or else everybody would do that. So I started my own site, and I think I got big enough to be on all of the lists and interview people next to other professionals who were writing for legitimate sites and that that had been around for decades. And that didn't turn into a professional entertainment journalist career. So I don't know that making your own films would help you get your amateur screenwriting turned into a professional career either. But once again, this is one person's anecdotal story or anecdote. So who meaning me, not the guy I'm quoting. So who's to say who's right here?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. It's a good point. I mean, I have a couple things I'd like to comment on that you mentioned. First is that I think there are a lot of screenwriting competitions like this out there. I'm not exactly sure what research you did to get to this one, but in reading what has happened to the past like 4 winners over the last 4 years, it seems pretty legitimate to me. So,
did they get careers, or are there films being made, or
like one person is, I think one of the films got made, another is like in production, another person actually became a producer, which is all good. It's all good stuff because it's industry related, and this is a path in more than anything to me. I mean, maybe this movie never gets made, but maybe it's the next one or the one after that gets made. That it's just about getting your foot in the door and having that opportunity. So it seems to me like this one seems like a decent path to go. I mean, especially since you've had some success out of it. I know you had a bit of a follow-up call last time that didn't necessarily work out when you were top 10, but maybe this time will be a little bit better. And I kind of continually remain optimistic. So that's point number 1. And with regards to what this guy was saying about making your own movies, I've kind of thought about it a little bit as well, and my thought was that you've got a background in doing some acting as well, but I would imagine most people who are writers don't, and so when they do something like that and they see someone else act their parts, regardless of how they were written, they're going to learn something from that maybe you are not necessarily going to learn because you've already lived that other side. But, for someone actually making the film that you've done or watching people act those things out, could give you a different perspective in terms of maybe I should not write this much or do this, as I go forward. So I think you may be in a little bit more unique, have a little bit more of a unique perspective when it comes to that insight that he was trying to give.
Sure.
I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I'm sure if I reread what he wrote, I would probably be in a better state of mind now than I was when I read it, which was like just as I was starting to drift off to sleep, and then okay, let me read what this guy has to say, and it got my blood up, right? And it's like now I can't sleep because all I can do is think about this, and I want to rebut him and tell him why his advice doesn't apply to me, and therefore it must be invalid. So I don't know, man. I mean, this is just the mercurial nature of being an artist, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But anyway, I think this is a good path that you chose. I guess that's my bottom line.
Oh, well, thanks, man. I mean, no, I did no research on this. It just seemed like, some people who were actually like established people in the entertainment industry directed me to this social network, Stage32.com. If anyone is interested, find me. You can add me. And I just figured, well, look, if it has the endorsement of these working people, Rex Pickett, I think his name is. He wrote Sideways,
the
movie. Play. The play that I think it was a play that got turned into a movie.
Okay.
So anyway, he directed me over there. So I said, okay, well, it seems to be legit, even though the network itself, it's one of those. Okay, let me back up here. So, as someone who had no connections in the entertainment industry, I did whatever I thought would help me make those connections, right? So I used to go to these mixers. I got invited by a publicist I knew. And, it's like you go and everyone, like I'll say 98% of the people there are in the same boat as you. And so they have no power either, no influence at all. So you're just mixing with other powerless people.
Yes.
And so Stage 32, maybe I'm just not on there enough. I'm not networking enough. It's one of those places where people are looking to get help with their own work rather than, trying to help you with your career. And, I don't necessarily blame anybody, right? Like, it's hard to just continually be altruistic, especially when you have a limited time. I feel like an entertainment career in whatever capacity, especially for actors, though, there's a definite window of opportunity for you. And the right project helping someone else, like there has to be some kind of equal trade there, or at least make you feel like you're getting ahead in some way. Maybe,
Sure.
It can't be, obviously you're trading something of equal value in different aspects with this other person or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, collaboration, a true collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like a network that you would go just to like, here's what I ate for dinner tonight or whatever, right? So the social aspect isn't quite there for my limited use.
Yeah. I will say one thing though, just commenting outside of this whole spectrum of entertainment.
Yeah.
Any mixer I've ever been to or networking event, pretty much all like that. They're all terrible, and ultimately, I think they're depressing. Like, am I one of these people? You know what? I'm just going to go do my thing and try my best because this is useless.
Yeah.
So all I did was waste time at those things.
Let me say this, and I'm going to leave names out because, well, you'll understand why in a second. The last mixer I went to, I said basically, I wrote a blog post about it because I was chronicling my life into, the Hollywood industry. And this was before I, had really started the entertainment journalism thing. I was just kind of blogging about movies and what I was trying to do, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I went to this mixer because I got invited by a publicist this was during the MySpace days, everybody, MySpace. So she invited me. I went. I left, and I wrote up a summation of the evening saying what I just said. I also talked about how I was at this Hollywood club, and I wanted some water, before I left. And the guy sold me a $6 bottle of Crystal Geyser water, and I put that in the blog post too. It was like, Jesus, $6, right? Anyway, so because I used, so the publicist that invited me, she was inviting me to her friend's event, who's another publicist or maybe like a manager of some kind in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And so I mentioned it was her party in my little summation, right? But I thought I was very fair. I didn't just like slam the event. I just said, hey, it's full of a lot of people who didn't have a lot of influence. And the drinks are very expensive. Anyway, so the publicist friend found my blog post, probably through like Google Alerts or whatever. And then she emailed me something very, not threatening necessarily, but in a, like, I know you wrote this and, it's unfortunate you didn't get what you could have out of it. There were people making deals or whatever, and she was telling me about exactly. And I wrote back, thinking, hey, look, this person who has influence, this is an actual influential person. Let me network with this person. So I said something conciliatory, but I wasn't, I didn't back off what I said, right? I think what I wrote was still pretty factual. And then she just came back with something just like fire and brimstone. Like, how dare you mention my name and, my contacts, my contacts' names. These are my friends, blah, blah, blah. And if you know what's good for your career in Hollywood, you'll take down this post or whatever, right? So I thought, well, that was my first taste in, like, you'll never work in this town. And,
right.
And as somebody who was nobody in the town, I thought, you know what? Is it worth it to me to have this blog post up in its current form to, start out the gate with, being hobbled by whatever this person is going to do to hamper my career? Is she going to make good on her threat? I don't know. Right. So I redacted the post and I said, hey, if you want to know the story, just contact me in person if you know me, right? Anyway, so there you go. That's why I never went to mixers after that. It's like, well, okay, well, if this is how it's going to be, I don't even know if I want to be in Hollywood.
Yeah. A little bit of a crummy town, I think, but dreams, baby.
That's what I'm saying, bro. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, I am in a fantastic mood. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I had a great meal at this nice restaurant, and I get this good news. So there you go. What else do we have to talk about, Brian? I feel like we've exhausted all of the relevant information.
We were going to talk a little bit about an alternative view, an alternative take on season 2 that you wanted to propose and discuss.
So, in our last episode, I felt like there was an underlying disagreement, and maybe not just with you, but factoring in the feedback from the scripts. A lot of it was, we'll say, almost tactical rather than creative. And what I mean by that is there are hurdles that a script, we'll just talk about the script, that a script has to overcome in order to make it to a decision maker, the decision maker that we want to get to, okay? Mm-hmm. And so that means getting through a script reader. And some of the feedback was, hey, you got to, chop the script down to 90 pages because of, it's the genre, and, people are immediately going to get freaked out by anything over 90 pages, blah, blah, blah. And all of that is sound, right? But I think I was approaching this from look, I know it's playing the lotto. The chances of me actually making it, to anything substantial are next to nothing, right? So let me just write something that that I like, right? And let's write for the reader and or the contest secondarily, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, in our last episode, it sounded like there are things that I could do to this current script, to Epitaph, to make it more of a winnable or more of a winning script. And so I started thinking, what if season 2 was not about what made the art secondary and made the winning primary? What would that script look like? And am I capable of being that kind of writer? Because look, let's be honest. Let's say this competition is my big break, right? Mm-hmm. Most likely the big break will not be, René, we're going to make your movie. You're going to be a script supervisor or maybe like assistant director or whatever, right?
Right.
You're going to be on the set. That's probably not going to happen. What will most likely happen is maybe it gets optioned. It sits on a shelf for so many years. Maybe the option comes back to me. Or maybe the rights to the script come back to me when the option ends. But most likely it'll be, René, we see you have some talent, so maybe you can be in the writer's room for this show. Or, sure, hey, we need you to punch up this zombie movie, right?
Yep.
And it'll just be some projects.
Right. Assignments.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I need to be the kind of writer who can detach himself from the work and just write essentially what is the equivalent of like marketing copy. You know what I mean? In script form. Like, hey, it's not your product, René, you're just selling the product. So write the copy that sells the product. So in this case, René, write the words, write the action that sells the story. So do I have that in me though? I don't know. I always, what's that? What's so funny, Brian?
I feel like you're on a roll. I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh, okay. Well,
Continue first.
Okay. Well, I always wanted my creative writing to be something that fulfills me, right? That it wasn't just work or another form of work. And maybe I can turn it into work because essentially that's what I want it to be in the long run, right? Like maybe I didn't think this through.
In the midterm run.
Oh, okay, right.
Because eventually you want to get to your own, yeah.
Yes, that's more accurate, correct. And maybe I didn't think this through. Maybe I always thought that, hey, René, we like your script. We're just going to produce your movies now because you're so awesome. We've never seen a writer like you before, right? Am I that egotistical? Am I that deluded that that's what I thought? Yes, I did think that.
We all would think that, though.
We all think that. So
I would hope that you're a hero in your own story, of course. You're the hero, right?
Hey, you know what, Brian? I don't feel so bad now that you've said it that way.
Yeah. You shouldn't feel bad anyway.
I'm just saying. It's I talk about being grounded and I had no illusions, blah, blah. But no, I'm like I'm filling my head full of illusions. So, Brian, what do you think of that? What are your thoughts?
I got to say that I've never heard such a logical, well-formed argument to do something that I think is a bad idea. I mean, it was like you were like gleefully going through that whole diatribe, and I thought it made a lot of sense, except for the fact that you'd have to write something you don't want to write. Let me tell you my fear. My fear is that my concern really is that, well, I guess it's twofold, and they kind of go hand in hand. One would be that it's not going to be very good what you write, and the reason for that is that, number two, I don't think your heart's going to be into it. And I've read your copy when your heart's not into it, and it's not bad. It's actually fine, but it's fine for marketing copy that it's not asking a lot from you, But if you're asking to capture a viewer's imagination for 90 to 120 minutes, oh, that's a tough one to pull off. I mean, this is truly to me, this is a more difficult assignment than anything you've done. And it's not that I'm putting you in a place I don't think you could do it. I just think it would be arduous, man. I remember, when you're writing Epitaph, even on weeks where we just had total disagreement, I could see the inspiration in you. I could see it flowing. I could see you, moving the puzzle pieces around and feeling happy when you got this to fit and this to work, and maybe come back and massage it the next week, or maybe just be like perfect at the gate. But I could see it. You're always working on it. And I could just imagine 6 months of you writing a script that you don't want to write, but you're trying to, use as a way in. Wow, I just think that could break you. That's my fear. So I think that your logic behind it makes total sense, but I think that writing a great script and just knowing that there's a really good chance if they select you that you're never going to see that again, but you could start a career 2.0 out of it. To me, that seems like the better chance. And I just don't know if you're going to. I mean, unless you're just going to say, all right, I got Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. In Act 1, I need to have this and this and this. All right, and then we have to have a twist here, the first twist, and we probably have to lose one of our characters here. That's going to set the stakes. And then, okay, we got Act 3. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to have my denouement, blah, blah, blah. Perfect. There's my script. I mean, you could do it. I just don't think, unless you were doing it to the point where you're just going to make fun of the whole thing and you're going to write things in there that are like over the top. When you're going to have a monster movie and the monster's going to be the trope or something. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're going to go that direction, that could be really fun. But I get the feeling that you're just like, no, I'm going to figure out what the numbers are, and then I'm going to paint them all in.
It would be that.
The second, the paint the numbers. Right.
So here's the thing. I see your concern. The other concern is it would be a chore for you to read it and critique it, right? Because your critique and people watching their critique would have to be from a business standpoint.
Right?
Rather than a creative standpoint. And who wants that, right? Like this is now.
If you said, well, okay, if here's my goal, I'm targeting right now a Blumhouse production that can't exceed $1 million. So I can't have any stars. I can have maybe 1 or 2 sets. And these are some of the limitations I'm going to force upon myself, so that if someone wanted to do a super low budget movie, they could. Yeah. That's a different type of challenge.
Right. And that is where my mind goes.
I don't think that's a bad challenge, because parameters sometimes bring out creativity.
Totally. I think that's the thing that brings out creativity is limitation.
Right.
I think you and I can't think of something off the top of my head, but I think you and I can remember watching a movie that felt like they had unlimited budget and the film suffered for it. Like they could do anything, and that's why the movie was just was kind of blasé. Right? Because they were not challenged to be creative.
Yeah.
So, with that said, I look at this, and this is how I tolerate marketing, right? Creative problem solving. What can I do within these parameters, with this goal in mind, and what would that script look like? There you go.
So it sounds like we're talking about maybe three things.
Okay.
So the first, I think, is extreme, which is the first thing you laid out, which is basically the paint by numbers.
Okay.
Number two would be the one where you go over the top and you're not interested in doing.
Right.
Number three is kind of pulling back on that paint by numbers to some extent and saying, all right, if I had these 5 limitations, could I write a script that could be sold?
Yeah. Well, but the 5 limitations in that 5 are, just like
you're not going to break the act structures. It's going to be kind of your typical act structure.
Yeah, very
right?
prototypical. Just a handful of characters.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very like an A plot, a B plot.
Okay, because you say that, but you put all that together, and you can still have some incredible dialogue, as an example. So it could be really snappy. It could be really cool character development.
Fine, totally. I'm not saying the movie's going to be necessarily bad. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but the movies that I write, they come from, and I know I've said this a million times, but they come from iconic scenes. And I don't have any iconic scenes that fit this idea. My iconic scenes are, I feel like they are all, there's a convoluted way that gets to, a path that gets to this very simple, honest moment in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't want just like, it's a simple movie that gets to a simple moment. I want it to be like, all these like stories and characters and they're twisting and turning. That boom, it culminates into this like very simple, 2 guys fighting over a gun or something. Right? It's that kind of dichotomy. That's the thing that always inspires me. Now it's just going to be, all the other stuff you see on Netflix. The stuff that I've seen all the blockbuster studio movies. Well, the cover art for this thing doesn't look so bad. Let's watch that, and then, okay, fine, put it in the corner while I fold laundry or whatever it is.
Part of me just wants to bank on the 10 plus years I've known you.
Okay.
And just say, yeah, let's do that. Because I know what's going to happen.
You're going to
say that. You're going to say that. You're going to intend that. And you're going to write something that's cool and fun. And I can be like, oh, yeah, well, I mean, this is great. Sorry, I like it. And then you're going to, well, I punched this little part up. I did this little thing. Next thing you know, you've got a good movie.
Hey, look, and if that happens, fine. I'm not gonna begrudgingly accept a screenwriting career because I had to write, prototypical movie, or whatever the prize money is on a screenwriting contest. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, this is the kind of writer I would need to be, as I pointed out earlier. Right?
Right.
So I'm kind of warming up to this idea. My only concern right now is I don't have a movie in my head that fits this. Right? Like, not even like iconic scenes.
Yeah. Are you considering a genre already?
I got nothing. I mean, I'm trying to think of, okay, what is easy to sell? Horror is easy to sell. Maybe some kind of romantic comedy, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of anything else. Like, what are all the crap things we see on Netflix or all these other streaming services? They're typically like horror. They're typically horror, let's be honest, because that's easy to do. Comedy is hard to do.
Yeah. Good horror is hard to do as well. Horror is not hard to do.
That's what I mean. Yeah, good horror. Yeah. When was the last time you saw a good horror, though, Brian? Exactly.
It's not my thing, so I have to really think back.
Okay.
I saw this movie, Scary Movies You Tell. Oh, forget it.
Did you? Did you really see it, Brian? There's no evidence of that. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well,
I think it could be interesting. I think you'd do well with it. To be honest with you, it's almost like you need to like the next episode, you just need to define what your parameters are going to be. So you're not killing yourself trying to remember or think of, everything by next episode.
Yeah.
But unless you have like an inspiration, but
no,
sounds
I
like
don't.
You don't want inspiration. You want assignment.
The one thing I have that keeps running through my mind, and I always thought this was so alien to me. I was working this is around 2006. So I had just finished my my dragon story, which I hope one day we'll revisit. Actually, very quickly, I did, just as I wanted to punch up or retouch Karina as part of this thing we're doing here, I also wanted to go over my dragon story because I have the sequels that I want to write, and I feel like I'm never going to write them unless we do it this way. But that's another conversation. So I keep going back to this moment in... It was like some spitting all over the place. Thank God for this pop filter.
Spit guard.
Spit guard? Is that that's what I used to call it, right? Spit
Right.
guard? Yeah.
Well, when you go to a buffet or something, it's a spit guard.
Sneeze guard. Anyway, so I was working 2006, and I just finished this screenplay. Hang on, everybody. Hello? Mom.
This is a personal discussion. While Renee takes this phone call
Okay.
and listens to me in one ear.
Oh, I don't care. That's fine.
René Garcia. One small E.
Okay, well, whatever
One
time works for
large E.
you, Mom.
Dedicated family man.
Yeah.
Writer.
Okay. Bye.
We had a guest star today. This is our first guest star.
Sorry. So I know you got to go soon, Brian, but all right. That was my mom, everybody. If this even makes it into the final cut of this, or this is going to be a wicked jump cut. I have a cousin who was in a really bad wreck, a motorcycle wreck, and I thought that was going to be bad news because my mom never calls me in the middle of the night like this. So I just wanted to take it just in case, someone had to share bad news with me. But it wasn't that. It was Thanksgiving plans. So there we go.
Everything's coming up rosy for you today, Renee.
Yeah.
Except for the spelling of your name. Everything's looking good.
I'll take it. Can you imagine, when I have my first movie that I really love, oh guys, go to the premiere, and that's how my name is spelled, all capitals, but lowercase.
Renier.
Oh, that will make me laugh. Anyway, okay, so I'm finished my script, working with this other guy who is also a screenwriter, and he shares his script with me, and it was fine. It was perfectly adequate, right? Hits all the points, and it's a very straightforward story. And I'm talking to him, and he said, yeah, if this gets picked up and it's made into a sci-fi movie, man, I'd be happy. And I was just thinking, that's what you're shooting for? What kind of artist has that kind of dream of just, it's a sci-fi movie? Okay, this is 2006, mind you. So,
right.
You didn't have streaming and all of that.
Yeah.
And now I think about that. That always kind of, I wouldn't say haunted me, but it really stuck out. And it just stayed with me for a long time. As I was going through this journey, I just thought, you know what? That is so practical, right? For all I know, he's a working screenwriter now because he had that mentality.
Mm.
And so, I always thought, am I not being practical enough? But then I also thought, maybe I'm just not built for that. Maybe I am the kind of guy who has to just make it just immediately, just okay, boom, I'm the $1 million screenwriter. I'm the Shane Black who just knocks it out of the park. Granted, right. Shane Black was 24 or whatever when he sold Lethal Weapon, and I don't think those stories happen anymore. So there you go, Brian.
I think let's find out if you are that kind of writer. Let's see if you can do it.
All right.
I mean, you know where my heart is on this, but if you want to take a different approach, I'm all game for that. You know.
Here we go. It's going to be called Vampire House. It's going to be one location.
Still don't know if that's a comedy or if that's a horror.
Who knows? But there's a
Into
vampire
crossovers.
and there's a house. That's where we're starting.
You know, I'll tell you this offline. This is a thought I had. This is an actual thought, so I won't share that just yet. But,
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I think that's all we have to say tonight. Everything else is just going to devolve into banter, unless you got something, Brian.
No, let's we can kind of figure out over the next few days what we're gonna meet on next week and get the ball rolling, man. Let's see what happens.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. So, everybody, you know, this is
Inspiration. Who needs inspiration?
Exactly.
I got an assignment.
Yes.
I got parameters. This should be fun.
This is a rare occasion, everybody. This is a very happy René, and I know it's only quarterfinalists, but hey, it is validation up to a point, and I will take it. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, and make sure to catch us next week. I guess that's it.
I will like and subscribe because I like this episode.
Oh, thanks, Brian.
All right, everyone. See ya.
See you. I need a thumbnail, Brian. Need a thumbnail.